Shalom everybody and welcome to the weekly Hebrew Torah snippet. This week's portion is Shmini, which goes from Leviticus chapter 9 through the end of Leviticus chapter 11. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're just going to start at the very beginning of the portion. We're going to read this little section here on the page, and then we'll go into a little bit of a grammatical concept, which is important in biblical Hebrew because it's very different than modern Hebrew. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and start reading. I'll call out the verse numbers as I go. Starting in verse 1. Vayehi bayom hashmini kara Moshe la'aharon ulevanav uleziknei Yisrael vayomer. Okay, so verse 2. Vayomer el aharon kach lecha egel ben bakar lechatat va'ayil leola tmimim v'hakrev lifnei Adonai. Verse 3. Ve'el bnei Yisrael tedaber lemor kechu seir izim lechatat ve'egel v'cheves bnei shana tmimim leola. Verse 4. V'shor va'ayil lishlamim lizboach lifnei Adonai umincha belula v'shamen ki hayom Adonai nira alechem. Verse 5. ויקחו את אשר ציווה משה אל פני אוהל מועד, ויקרבו כל העדה, ויעמדו לפני אדוני. Verse 6. ויאמר משה, זה הדבר אשר ציווה אדוני, תעשו וירא עליכם כבוד אדוני. Okay, so if you're on the signal group, you may have noticed this section here has all the four words that I highlighted for this week, right? So we have the word egel, right there. We have the word keves, right? So calf, sheep, right? And then the other two words, so one of them was kavod down here on the bottom, right? Which is like glory or honor. And also the word lizboach, which is to sacrifice, right? To offer something. Zevach is the word sacrifice, and then Mizbeach, you might be familiar with the word for altar, Mizbeach, so it's from the same root, Zayin, Bet, and Chet. Alright, so what we're going to be looking at is this type of thing here, okay? So verse 2 starts off with Vayomer, Vayomer, which means, and he said, okay? So we're going to look at that concept a little deeper. So this concept is called the hahofech, hahofech, which means a flipping vav, okay? So what it has to do with is this vav right here that appears on the front of a verb. So in biblical Hebrew, this is unique to biblical Hebrew, but when a vav appears on the front of a verb in the future tense, it flips that tense of that verb to past tense. Okay, so examples here with vayomer, right, like we talked about. Vatomer is just the feminine form. And then sometimes vayomer, sometimes you'll see it pronounced as vayomar, so that vowel could be eh or ah. Biblical Hebrew has a lot of variants with vowels as far as how they appear. Okay, so again, basically the basic future tense form of this verb, right? Yomar, he will say, and tomar, she will say. We're just putting a vav on the front and it flips the meaning to past tense. So most of the time actually when it says, and he said, right, or a verse starts with he said, it's going to be, or God said or whatever, if it's third person, right, it will use this tense. And then you'll just put the vav on the front of the future tense. Okay, so this works both ways. With a future tense verb, it will flip it to past tense, and also with a past tense verb, it can flip it to future tense, right? So down here on the bottom, we have the amar, right, which is the basic past tense form of the verb. If I said hu amar, that means he said. Okay, and so if you see it with a vav on the front in biblical Hebrew, ve'amar, that's going to be translated as he will say or he shall say. Okay. So yeah, this is a very unique concept within biblical Hebrew, where you can have the tense of the verb can actually flip to make past future and future past. Okay, so that's the lesson for this week, and we'll see you next time.